What's up, Math 8? Today we are going to just look at some area review as far as just sort of the formulas that we use for area. And again, this is just a review of probably things that you have seen all in the past in previous grades about area and finding area of different figures. So we're going to go ahead and just jump into it. I want you to go ahead and write this stuff down, write down the examples that we do, okay, and then, yeah, we'll go from there. There may or may not be a notes check over this, so please make sure you get it done. All right, so we'll go ahead and jump in, first of all, with the square, okay, so the area of a square is summed up by area A equals BH, okay, this means area equals base times height, where the B is base, the H is height, okay? So, if we look at a square, we have well, first of all, we know that all four sides in a square are congruent or the same, right? So that means if this side is 6 feet up at the top, we also know that this side is 6 feet, this side is 6 feet, and this side is 6 feet, okay? Now, we have all four sides labeled. We can go ahead and find the area. Okay, so the area equals base times height. I'm just going to rewrite that. And then, in order to find the area, or A, we just plug in these numbers. So the base is 6, and the height is 6. Okay, from there we have area equals the simplification of that. 6 times 6 is 36. So the area of this square would be 36 feet. And technically that would be 36 feet squared, okay, or 36 square feet. All right, so that's it for a square. All right, so moving on to a rectangle. A rectangle is actually the exact same as doing a square, okay? This time we have, again, area equals base times height, okay? So I'm going to start with A equals B times H. And then I'm just going to plug in, okay? So, for a geometric shape, it's important to note that this bottom length is going to be our base, okay? And we know that that bottom length is the same as that top length for a rectangle, so that would be 9 for the base, and then the height is 4. All right, again, we just need to go ahead and multiply, and it just so happens that one is also 36. That was an accident. I did not do that on purpose. So funny how that works out. All right. So for this rectangle, the area is 36 centimeters squared. All right. Moving right along, we now have a parallelogram. Okay. Again, the parallelogram is the same formula, but this is where it starts to get a little bit trickier. Okay. Now it's important to recognize that for a parallelogram, we're looking at the distance of this dotted line for the height. We are not looking at this for the height, okay? The reason for that is we can actually take this here, this triangle, and we can take it out and move it over here, right? So now, if you look at that, you can see we just have a rectangle right here on this blue, okay? And for that rectangle, we want to use this side, which is 5, okay? We don't want to use that diagonal that we just had. All right, so that's why we don't want to measure those diagonals. You want to measure these straight up and down for this one. All right, so again, like I said, we have area equals base times height, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and plug those in. The base is going to be 7 inches, and the height is going to be 5 inches. From here, like I said, the last two, we just multiply. 7 times 5 is 35, and we end up with the area being 35 inches squared. And that's it for a parallelogram. All right, now this is where we start to get into some different things, okay? So now we have a triangle. And a triangle is very similar to the things that we've already done earlier on in this video, but it's also a little bit different, right? So the formula for a triangle is going to be area equals 1/2 the base times the height. Okay, so that's that main difference, is that this is just 1/2 of that. Okay, the reason for that, you may have seen this before, but if we were to go ahead and go from here and finish this off as a rectangle, okay, this isn't going to be perfect drawing, obviously, but now you can see the rectangle. We have 13 is still the base, 7 is still the height, but we're missing what we can find, and we won't find it right now just for time's sake, but we could find that is exactly half of the rectangle, that part that I just shaded in. So that's why the triangle, when we find the area, we only use half of the base times the height. All right, so we will go ahead and plug all this in once again. So the area equals 1/2 times the base, which is 13, times the height, which is 7. Okay, and you might want to plug that into a calculator. I know that's going to be, let's see, 1/2 times 13 is 6.5, and then 6.5 times 7 will give us our area. That would be 42 plus 3.5. Okay, how I got that is 7 times 6 is 42. 7 times 1/2 is just 3.5. So then we add those two together. We'll get our area is, our area is, there we go, 45.5 miles squared. All right, and that's it for how to use the triangle area formula. Okay, one thing to note, if you don't know how to do in your head this like I did, that's not a big deal. It's not a problem. Those are tough numbers to work with. You can just type that in your calculator, right? It's not a big deal if you do that. All right, now we get into a couple more really interesting ones. Okay, I honestly kind of flipped these around. Let's go ahead and do the trapezoid before we do the circle, just because it makes more sense to do it that way. All right, so for a trapezoid, we kind of look at it the same way we looked at that parallelogram earlier, where we don't want to use that diagonal distance over here. We want to use this distance, that 8 inches, that's straight up and down when we find this. All right, so this, like I said, is a trapezoid. I think I said that already. But yeah, it is a trapezoid. And what we want to do with a trapezoid is a much more complex formula. Okay, it seems more complex anyway. In reality, it's not too big of a deal. Okay, so what we want to do is area equals 1/2 times base 1 plus base 2. Okay, and then that will be multiplied by the height. Okay, now the reason we do this is because we want to find base 1 and base 2. So that 5 and 9 for this example. Okay, and we want to find the average of those two. Okay, and that will give us our usual base. Okay, now when we find average, you add whatever the two things are together, then you divide it by 2. That's what doing the multiplication of 1/2 is doing. Okay, so this part right here is just finding our base. Okay, and that is really the only difference between this and a parallelogram or a rectangle or a square. All right, so let's just go ahead and walk through that really quickly. So we have area equals 1/2 times B1, or the first base. I'm going to use 9 for the first one. And then B2, the second base, I'm going to use 5 as the second one. And then our height is 8. Okay, and again, that's right here. Okay, so then we have our area equals 1/2. We do parentheses first, by order of operations. So then we have 1/2 times 14 times 8. Now all we have to do is multiply everything out. 1/2 times 14 is 7, and then 7 times 8 will give us 56. All right. So the area of this trapezoid would be 56 inches squared. All right, last one, we have our circle. Okay, so the circle is interesting. This one is very different from the rest of them, has nothing to do with the rest of them. Okay, so our formula for a circle is going to be area equals pi r squared. Okay, pi, you can sometimes, if you can't figure that out on your calculator, or find the button, I should say, on your calculator, you can sub in 3.14 for pi. However, I like to use pi whenever possible, just because that's going to give me a much more accurate answer. Okay, so if we have this, that r stands for radius. Okay, the radius is the point in the center. It's the distance between that point and any point on the edge of the circle. Okay, so that's what our radius is. All right, so now we have area equals pi times the radius, which for this one is 4, and then we square it. All right, now this is one you're definitely going to need to put in your calculator. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So I'm typing in as we speak. It's the button, if you have the TI-30X, it would be the button right above that little caret button. It's 3 below the second button, basically. Okay, so I'm going to type in pi, and then I'm going to put 4 and the exponent to the second power. Okay, and then I plug that in. I get 50.26 approximately. Okay, nope, sorry, 50.27 approximately. Okay, these are pretty much never going to be a whole number whenever we find the area of a circle. Okay, just because we have pi, and pi is irrational. All right, so yeah, we have 50.27 square meters for our area for this circle. All right, and then once you have that, that is actually going to be it for this video. Okay, so not any got it problems or anything for you to do this video, just review over our area formulas, and we will go into using these as we move on in the next few days. All right, other than that, that's it. Hope you have a good day, and I will see you guys in class.